And we are very pleased to tell you that today is the last day of our webinar, and we are very grateful. I don't know, for those of you that can understand Italian, they may have listened to us chatting about the fact that this webinar, who had, as you know, it lasted for 2 weeks, and we had a quite exceptional participation with an average of 50 participants every day, which is quite exceptional for this kind of courses. So today we have one presentation from Andrea Fabris and Mario Panlei, and the presentation will provide some insight on the guidelines for the development of sustainable fish farming with a view of producing seafood according to the principle of food safety and food security. Andrea Fabris was with us also yesterday. He's the director of the Italian Fish Farmers Association and is involved in national level working groups on aquaculture, on the European Union regulation. And he's a vet, he's a veterinarian by training, and he specializes in aquatic species farming, hygiene, and pathology. And Mario Panlei is the director for the Prevention of Food Safety Public Health Service in the Central Directorate for Health, Social Policy and Disability. He's also veterinary by training, and he's working he's the director, as I was saying, of the center at the Friuli Venezia Giulia, which is an autonomous region within Italy. And I understand that Mario will start the presentation, and then Andrea will follow. So over to you, and thank you very much for being with us today.
So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Rosa Laura, for my personal presentation. Aquaculture, and in particular fish farming in my region, Friuli Venezia Giulia, has a very important role, so much so that for fish production, the aquaculture fishing ratio is 60-40%. The main farmed fish and shellfish production that will be better described immediately are rainbow trout, mussels, sea bass, and sea breams. The production systems are diversified. There are fish farms in fresh, in salt, and brackish water, with extensive and intensive types. In this context, the management of animal health and the well-being of farmed fish carried out by public service, veterinarian service, together with the professional veterinarians and the technicians appointed by the companies is fundamental. Also with a view to maximizing the guarantee of food safety. Animal health and welfare are the center of frequent check and surveillance activities by the public service veterinary. Friuli Venezia Giulia, it was the first Italian region to envisage application guidelines to ensure biosecurity measures aimed at controlling the spread of pathologies subject to notification, especially VHS, viral hemorrhagic septicemia, and IHN, infective hemorrhagic necrosis. In the case of the salmonids, throughout the new animal health law regulation for the 29 to 2016. At the same time, an accurate monitoring system shared between production and development to guarantee food safety, especially in the field of shellfish. Indicators of fecal contamination and the possible presence of biotoxin are monitored throughout a capillary samples collection system. So now, Andrea, the presentation of.
Hey,
please,
I
please.
start. Thank you, Mario, for your introduction. thank you also to the organizer to call us. I hope we will give some good element to develop a good aquaculture, but to develop good interaction between the public sector and the production sector. This is, I think, something that is very important. Just to come back, our fishes are marine fishes, sea bass, sea bream, sparrows, some small quantity of fishes that prefer fresh water, but not so cold fresh water as eel, catfish, carps, tanks. And the main production is based on the last part. There are salmonids in fresh water that has rainbow trout, we will see, brown trout, brook trout, marble trout, and grayling. We have, as Mario introduced, we have different systems of farming, and it is something like a variety, and it is also something a challenge between when we are talking about making a common baseline, common rules to organize aquaculture activities, surveillance, and also the rules. So we have extensive, as we told yesterday, extensive lagoon system of farming, RAS system, recirculation system, especially in the hatcheries, on-land farms with pumped water or water coming from rivers, and sea cages that are also an important issue. In our region, we have all these different systems. This is something like a richness that we have. Obviously, the balance of the different systems is not the same, and also on the different species. But what is also important, we don't stop to the production of fish, but we go also on fish products, on processed fish products. Here are some examples from ready to eat, ready to cook, burgers, something like tartare of fish, and eggs from trout, salted eggs, and smoked fish. So this is important because you have some part that is after the aquaculture, the direct primary production, but is at least for 50% is this part is followed and made in the same aquaculture farms in plants that are very strictly related to the farming facilities. Also, we have to face here some market changes. For example, I make an example of what happens to trout. That is one of the, this is the biggest production for aquaculture in this region. We change completely the target. In the early years, in the early 2000, we have a prevalence of white trout versus pink, and the white trout was mainly exported. Actually, in the last 5 years, we have to make something like a middle, because we know that in the last years we have COVID, we have the pandemic, we have also a crisis with Ukrainian conflict. So there are some changes, but mainly, as if you make an average evaluation, we have 30% of white and 60% of pink trout. So they change completely. And regarding pink trout, 80% of the pink trout is fillet. So aquaculture production is not stopping the farm, but also go to the process plant, as I say. Trout farms are the main production. Actually, we produce, not last year, we produce more than something like 11,000 tons. That is about 1/3 or 30% of the national production of trout in Italy. And Italy is one of the biggest producers of trout, rainbow trout in freshwater in the EU. Mainly is rainbow trout. Other species are brook trout and brown trout. They are not only for human consumption, but they are also for restocking. And this is also another important issue. To restock the rivers, to restock the natural environments is one of the skills that aquaculture can have. That is an important skill, really, with marble trout. It is an autochthonous species, and put and take fisheries. That it's a very important recreational activity, and it has a very important role for elders, but also for young people. In that region, in our region, we have more than 40 companies and about 70 farms of trout production. Many of them are micro enterprises, so it is important to make something like a relationship between them. As Mario said, we take care about health, and 15 farms are officially free from VHS and IHN that are notifiable disease under animal law and the OIE rules. There we can see the distribution of trout farms. You see there are some areas where there is something like a crowded concentration of farms, and it's very important to take in account when you make surveillance, because related to the possibility of exchange and diffusion of disease. And so this is something that we have to take in account when we make surveillance plans and risk analysis. Other aquaculture activities are finfish mariculture. We have a hatchery that produce more than 10 million of sea bass and sea bream fingerlings per year, and we have 2 sea cages farms and on land in extensive farms that are produce a total 400 tons of sea bass and sea bream. And then there is also shellfish mariculture that is important in some area here in the region. We produce the last year we produced more than 1,700 tons of mussels and 40 tons of clams. That was an important in the past, more important production in the past, but we have some problems related also with floods and water climate changes, effects. Yes, this was the introduction and how we use this region as something like a case study. And I start now talking about what was introduced by Mario as the integration between the regional health department and the production sector. The first issue, the first area, it is related to animal health and welfare. It is one of the main focus that we have as in surveillance activities by the public veterinary, but as well as also farm fish vets and operators. One of the starting point that was very challenging for us, it was in the 2010, 2012, was the implementation of at the regional level of a firmer directive on animal aquatic health, that is Directive 2006/88. And then now we have of the passage, the changes that are related to animal law that not change too much, respect the previous framework, and it's related delegated and implementing acts. As I said by Mario, this region was the first Italian region that make application guidelines that at the end were pasting copy from other regions and also at national level to ensure biosecurity measures that are very important to control the spread of pathologies subject to notification, but not only, because these laws are take in account all the disease and all the that affect aquatic animals. But in the case that we are analyzing is specifically for VHS and the IHN, especially in water salmonids that you see are the main production area for this regional aquaculture. What means make guidelines? Means make regulate the register of aquaculture companies that is actually national, but at the beginning was regional. How every company have to register, how to every company needs the authorization with the registration and traceability obligation for all the aquaculture businesses, not only for the ones that are with not related or susceptible from notifiable disease. The definition of good hygiene practice for the different environments and for the very different types of farming. You see that we have completely different systems of farming, and you have to tailorize the good hygiene practice for the different areas. And then define the surveillance plan based on risk analysis. This is a very important instrument to control the spreading of disease, and it is a tool that it is used together by the official veterinary service, but also from the farmer, by the farmer and its vets. And then we make an effort to categorize the health status of all the trout sector. It was made something like 10 years ago, but it's very, very important that also in this case, we make analysis for each farm for a sample that it is important to establish how it is the picture of the spreading and the diffusion of a disease at the first moment. And then, and actually we work a lot on this point, the health certification that in the past was only on paper actually is in a digitalized form, and we make also a lot of effort together as official service and production sector. If you need more information on this, you can ask us. It is very important, the work that is done afterward. We will see the results now, but it takes time and a lot of dialogue, and that has need to be constructive, because the starting point is not always the same from an official point, a control point of view, and a production point of view. But we arrived. So it was a preparation and drafting of application guidelines. That is important activity of validation of manual of correct hygienic practice that, as I premised before, they are tailorized for each different farm. Each different farm has different characteristics from the others, and so you have to have a personal manual of correct hygiene practice. But at the same time, we need uniform and simplified forms to avoid bureaucratic burdens. And so for the authorization request, for the risk analysis schemes, for surveillance program, for registers, it is a uniform, a common baseline that all the farms can use. At the end of this, we need also a monitoring plan to attribute health status. The work, the big work that is made in the 2010, 2012 years actually pays, because when now we are changing the laws, there are no too much activities that have to be performed more, because all is ready. And just to change some numbers and change some names of the laws and so on. This is for what I think, I say before, animal health, aquatic animal health. Obviously, it is related mainly from fish, but also for shellfish. We have also another system that we work together. it is related to hygiene package and official control regulation application, and it is related to the guarantee of food safety for the consumers and quality of seafood products intended not only live, as can be say for shellfish or finfish, but also fresh and processed, as you see. One example is there the development of a shared activity of sample collection performed jointly by the production and controllers to detect some indicators of fecal contamination and possible presence of biotoxin, make together according to some rules and in part funded by public money. That is very important, and it has a very good result. It is also something like a good practice that have been spread in other regions in Italy. But we don't stop here. We make other efforts because we need also to involve other regional departments, not only health, because you, as you can see, aquaculture, sorry, it is something that aquaculture activities are completely interconnected with other anthropic activities as urban towns life, industrial settlements, and the water purification plants that make a lot of work to purify water, but at the same time they emit discharge water that can have some specific characteristics. Livestock breeding that is also concentrated in some parts and is very, very near. If you remember at the beginning, we see the something like a geographical map. The activities of aquaculture are sometimes close to other livestock farms and other agricultural activities that can affect aquaculture. One is fertilization due to the nutrient release, but also irrigation. That it is something that use water, consume water at the. Sorry, I don't know what is happened. Use waters, and this is could be a problem. So we have different environmental impacts in the activities or other activities between aquaculture, but also we have sometimes conflicts. These are related to the nutrient relays for nitrogen, phosphorus. That is, for example, is important to the growth of shellfish, but can affect the finfish activities. The priority in access to water resources, and this is when we, as in this period, we see a long period of drought, especially during summer. There is a high request of water by irrigations for agricultural activities, especially some cultivations, and the aquaculture that needs water because it's vital for aquaculture to have water and for space, as there are conflicts in the use of space both in the sea and inland related to other activity, but also to tourism activities. So we need sometimes an integration on the more good planning of the activities, and also release of chemicals coming from agriculture or other activities, also water purification, organic and microbiological contaminants. That is very important, for example, for shellfish that you know that are the filtering organisms, so they assume all of it. And in some cases, reduction in biodiversity, if you think about the use of some chemicals or related to some specific cultivations that are spread in a lot of the territorial area of the region. So this was the starting point to think we need an integration not only for health reasons, but also for other regional departments. The producers of aquaculture sector need to dialogue with other stakeholders, but also with other departments of the region. So we start asking the region, and at the end we obtain the institution of a sectorial consultation table for aquaculture, where are involved the agriculture and fisheries department, where inside is also aquaculture, public health, and we have here today Maglio as in representation, and environment. These are the main three areas that we face with the region that are very important. They regulate a lot of things. For environment, for example, we have to follow some rules for the correct water use or the water resources use, and every farm have to respect some parameters and ensure a minimum flow out that is not collected by the farm but is out of the farm, and then can maintain the rivers live. So also there are research institutes inside. There are 2 universities in the region and one public institution that is Istituto Zoopofilatico delle Venezie, that is also center of reference for national center of reference for fish pathologies. So we work also with them. This table is very important. Sometimes we have also problems to, especially during the pandemic, to have good meetings, but is made to solve together the problems that every stakeholder, but also the institution face on a daily basis. Because you know that in the reality, stakeholders have problems, but also when you go to the public sector, you have problems to answer to the request that the different requirements that people ask. So at the end, coming from this virtuous system, also in order to promote the high quality and the high nutritional value of all regional fish products intended as shellfish, kingfish, farmed and cooked from the wild, there was developed platform under the control of the region to provide the use of high quality national fish products in the social catering, in the schools, in the residence for the elderly people, that due to this important nutritional value and also to this local 0 kilometer production that is very important also in the view of a good environmental impact. So at the end, all of these actions will contribute to a sustainable aquaculture that have to be based on the 3 pillars: environment, social, and economic. In environment, we have to work a lot on life cycle assessment, product environmental footprint that are very important, use of energy from alternative sources, new or better new raw materials, but also, as we see yesterday, based on ecosystem services. I just to repeat quickly what I say yesterday. For example, if you think about the food and environmental footprint and the farming of mussels, you can think about the fact that mussels in the shell collect carbon dioxide, so they subtract carbon dioxide and they make a good balance in this area. Social is sustainability, but actually we don't only promote new activities, the social sustainability as something that is in the coastal area, rural areas, but it is needed also an higher acceptability by the people or regarding aquaculture production. This is another important concept. Aquaculture is important not only for food safety, for nutritional value, but also for food security. And in these years, we make a real perception of how important is food security related to the food availability for all the people. And at the end, in social, we also have to impose a new governance. And this that make this afternoon, we make this afternoon to you is just a small sample that we can go with a new governance system where the public sector talk with the production sector. And at the end, to be sustainable, aquaculture have also to ensure economic performances, making clear level playing field, because at the end of the day, we produce fish, we produce a lot of fish, but not enough. And in Italy, we import at the end of the day something like 80% of the fish we consume. So it's very important that the rules of the countries that are outboard the borders, but also in the same area, have to be the same or comparable to what we apply in Italy. So this is all. We have some contacts if you want. I put the contacts of the Italian Fish Farmer Association. Mario can give him to the organizers. Its contacts, and we are open to questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea and Mario. Thank you very much. This was really very interesting. So I now would like to give the floor to the participants. I see Livio. Please, Livio.
Thank you, Rosa Laura. Many thanks. Mr. Palei, Mr. Fabris, a big thank you for the great and very interesting presentation. Really, thanks a lot. There was something which attracted me in a very special way. You mentioned the high concentration of very small companies, a high concentration all around the area of Venezia, more or less. Micro companies you mentioned, something like that. Have you got any figures, please, concerning the turnover, concerning the rate of growth, the rate of increase of these companies, the employment, for example, how many people working in this sector, how many families involved? Can you mention, please, some numbers, some figures concerning this, if it's possible? Thank you.
I start for a production part, and then after I give the floor to Mario for eventually on public sector. There are a lot of, we call it we have a macro region that is Triveneto, but is we are inside them, and in our region you see there are something about 70 farms on trout and about 10 with other species related to fish, and there are about 30 shellfish farms in our region with about 1,000 people involved in the sector, and 80% of these farms are micro enterprises in the terms defined by EU community, and the other are small enterprises. I think there is only one that has the one that we have also the hatchery, that is a big company. So it's in the regions that are near Friuli, Veneto, and Trentino, the situation is almost the same. especially for shellfish farms that are sometimes with one person for enterprise. So our company is something like one person, one boat, and one company is something like they have in the lagoon. And what is important is also the related jobs, because as I see before, aquaculture production is one of the points of the chain of production. You have on upstream, you have oxygen, you have feed companies, you have other products. At the end, you have a processing plants, you have commercial plants, you have transportation. So it is one point in the middle, and you have also related jobs. And for example, also some machinery, some truck, special truck to distribute feed in this region that is rich of farms have been developed. So there are enterprises that work for aquaculture, make tools, make instruments for aquaculture. So this is what I mean. Yeah, I don't know if I answered completely to your answer, but yes.
Andrea, can I ask you to stop sharing your screen so we can?
I try to do it, but I don't. Okay, I try.
Thank you very much. And
Thanks a lot, Mr. Fabris. Just one issue, one question. This means that not a big investment, not a huge investment is needed to start a brand new farm, a new fish farm.
Yeah.
A normal family can open a new activity. This means that it's something not for big investors.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, the situation is that it is not easy to have new license to make aquaculture. But what happens is that because there is something, a high number of aquaculture farms, but what happens now is that the family enter more in the wool process. As I see before, we have some small farms that are in rural areas. They work with some restaurant. They work with the local touristic companies. For example, I don't know if all the people knows the Italian area, but when you think about in these days, we run the Giro d'Italia. It is a bike competition, and one of our farms is located at the basis of Monte Zoncolan. That it was an important hill to run with. And there is a development of a farm that was formerly only producing trout, and now they smoke the trouts and sell the people that is coming there because it is a touristic importance. And so it could be small investments to adapt and better affirm your chain. Is not related only to produce fish, but also what is together with the fish. This culture, is tourism, and this is something that we as association spread a lot, push a lot with people to make also known better the fishes. Because if you make known the local fish, you use better. And the other thing is that we work together to know all the fish, not only one fish from a region, but our effort together with the region is to make promotion of all the fish products that you have all the in the region. So it's something that can open also better the promotion activities.
Thank you, Andrea. Livio, do you have any further comment on this? Okay, I don't think so. So, any question? Do you have any other comment or question for Andrea and Manlio? Would you like her to promote aquaculture, fish farm in your country? What are the key elements that should be considered? I don't see any hands, but if you want to talk, please just speak, because it's not easy for me to see if someone is raising his hand.
Okay, excuse me. I must go out for another appointment, and thank you for all for Rosa Laura and for organization. Okay, bye bye. Thank you for.
Mario, was a
And
pleasure.
regards.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao Andrea. Bye.
Well, Rosa Laura, let me just add something. I have to say that our listeners many times are a bit shy, because I've been told from by other speakers that they have been receiving many contacts after the lessons. So many times people do not ask something directly, but as soon as the session gets to an end, they try to contact the speaker to ask other things. So anyway, this is a good sign. But I would like just to encourage our speakers not to be so shy and to try if they have any question, any idea, or any suggestion, any proposal. Thank you.
I just have a communication for my colleague Fabio.
We lost Rosa Laura.
Yeah, I think there was a wrong with the connection, I guess. Who were pending the communications.
Maybe Fabio, are you going to manage it, please? Maybe we get to an end here and we start again with the second part of the session.
Yeah, well, perhaps since we're in the office, I for 1 second, I will be right back in one moment. I think there is a very easy solution.
Well, I do try. If there are no more questions, maybe we can stop here and we start again. Well, we lost Fabio as well.
Fabio, vai tu. Sì. Livio, I think if there are no other questions,
We can stop here.
we can give the floor to you for the second presentation. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I just start directly, immediately. Why not? Yes.
Would you mind introducing yourself? So, Livio Spadavecchia is a counselor in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but my computer is fading out and I don't know if you can hear me. So please, Livio, introduce yourself, and sorry for this technical glitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa Laura. Thanks a lot. My name is Livio Spadavecchia. I'm from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, of course, the Department of Development Cooperation. And well, just welcome to this final session of this 2 weeks of work. Frankly speaking, I've not really a proper presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, because at this point we just would like to draw some conclusions. So many topics were touched, were discussed, and absolutely all important, and I would say also necessary. We have been talking about something concerning universities, an academic approach, an institutional approach, companies, cooperation as well. Absolutely every time first-rate speakers. So first of all, let me express a sincere thanks to each of our speakers who gave us their very kind availability, and all of them brought their contribution of knowledge, of experience, of direct experience as well on practical issues. And I think that this can be really of real interest for every country, for everybody, even if each of our listeners have an interest in specific issues, not probably in others. But thank you to all of our speakers for the really excellent contribution they gave us, and for the enthusiasm also with which they joined this initiative. The enthusiasm also from the listeners. So I also address my warm thanks to all of the participants who followed the webinar for 2 weeks online, which is not easy, but at the end of the day, now we arrived at the last session, and all the time bringing also their enthusiasm, also by typing some hello from Turkey, from Latin America, or wherever. But a special thank, especially to our colleagues from the Mountain Partnership, to Mrs. Rosa Laura, Romeo, and the other colleagues, Fabio, Antonella, and the others, and the University of Turin, who gave us this platform, this digital platform, in order to allow us to manage technically this webinar. All together, to make such a team. That's why we called this webinar Aqua Team, because we understood that the water absolutely needs a cross-sector, a multi-sectorial approach. You can't talk of biodiversity, of nature, without talking of regulations, controls on the territory, and also any use of the water for vital purposes, for professional purposes like aquaculture we saw today, without a proper planning. We also saw the necessity, the importance of urban planning, of infrastructures as well for water. So a broad approach, a multi-sectoral approach for a collective commitment. We can say a public commitment, a private engagement, governance, research. Professor Colizzi is here, and actually we listened some very high-level lessons concerning an academic approach to water and nature and biodiversity. Each of these elements is absolutely necessary. And the purpose of this webinar was, we can say, kind of vocational training for the ones who are interested in aquaculture, in the academic approach, in other things. They were introduced to value-added presentations from our speakers. So vocational training first. Number two, networking. To give you the opportunity to get in touch directly with the speakers. And we have been told that from the speakers that they've been contacted by several of you afterwards, after the presentations. But the networking also among yourselves, contacting, getting in touch, getting to know one each other. Or directly with the speakers, or also, because all these sessions have been registered and they will remain online. They've been recorded in internet. And all of you who can be interested in a follow-up can directly get in touch with ourselves just by typing to the email we mentioned, dgcs.environment@esteri.it. Esteri means, you know, ESTIERI.it. And specifying, please, who you are addressing, or if you have any proposal of intervention, please just ask how to detail your proposal. Because the real purpose of this webinar is to spend altogether these 2 weeks in a fruitful way, but especially to give you the opportunity to launch new partnerships, new initiatives after these 2 weeks. We are from the Department of International Cooperation. And indeed, any kind of partnership can be directly from a university to a university, can be from the demand side to the supply side, so to different sectors that are not in touch but would like to get in touch with each other. So combining supply side and demand of action, and from the profit sector and non-profit sector. When a company needs an institutional approach of governance or an agency of cooperation needs to get an institution involved, because carrying out a brand new initiative in Egypt, in Pakistan, in Argentina, in Chile, whatever, means that avoiding the risk to carry out something isolated. Our multi-stakeholder approach was exactly aimed at incentivizing, pushing for some comprehensive approach. If any new initiative has to start, this has to start with the inclusion of a knowledge, of an awareness of what you are doing, with an investment approach, with the business plan and so on. So with many subjects of involved in water management. If this is a new initiative, this can be a private investment, but this can be also from our side as a public institution, an approach, a project, an initiative of cooperation. What is cooperation? Cooperation is the international development cooperation, is the apport, is the contribution that the public institution gives to the territory, to a community, in order to push for a new capacity, for a new ability to manage something. We do this cooperation. We finance also. We fund many projects, many initiatives all over the world. We have, of course, our priorities, but you can understand that if we want to fund new initiatives, we have our own criteria. I mean, it's not easy that you simply ask ourselves, please help me, please. You can do our cooperation with us. We have not a never-ending wallet ready to give money to everybody. We have our own ways, our own criteria to implement cooperation. And you can also understand that this is a difficult moment where multiple crises are all over the world. There are crises, and we are participating with funding in Ukraine for the COVID coronavirus, for food emergencies all over the world. So in this difficult context of multiple crises, we need also to select the projects to finance in order to improve also the effectiveness of our action. We would like you understand this. We would like you will be aware of our needs to help you. I mean, please help us to help you. This is the idea. We would like you to send us new proposals for cooperation, but proposals, not just ideas. I would like to do that. We need to set clearly new objectives on the basis of data concerning a situation, poverty, some social and economic needs. I mean, we need to define our objectives in a conscious way, in a realistic way. So give us some reasons to intervene, to launch a new project, and we would evaluate how to approve and to support these new projects. But this is also important, the fact that we are a public institution, and we would like also to interact with other public institutions locally, where you are, because we need that the new projects we are going to launch, for example, can count on a stability situation, can count on an ability to continue the investment, because many times the risk we run is that we fund a new project, but at the end of the period, after 2 hours, after two years, the project gets to an end and everything gets back as it was at the start. So without any appropriation of the ability to manage autonomously the activity. Strengthening our partner countries' own system of ability to manage an initiative is of utmost importance, because otherwise we do not carry out development cooperation. This would be just an help to survive. Does not make sense. This can be done in emergency interventions. It's something pretty different. But when we mentioned sustainable development, when we mentioned a results-based management, we do need to give our projects a rational approach. And we would need that you also help us to set a rational approach depending on the territory, depending on the community which is going to benefit for these projects. So this can just come from a dialogue, a permanent, a continuous dialogue between profit and non-profit sector, between demand and supply side. But you cannot imagine that we just come and fund new activities without any proper evaluation of where we are starting from, where we are going to. Well, said this, I hope to have given you a set of ideas of what's the way we're going to approve new initiatives of cooperation. I don't want to be boring, because I understand that after 2 weeks, after many hours of lessons, you can also be tired, but we would like also you to participate. We would like to take advantage of this last session to give you the floor and to contribute with your own ideas, with your own questions. And hopefully in the future, also in the next few days, also maybe new for projects to stay in touch, because this kind of webinar we have been doing this in these 2 weeks can be replicated in a more targeted way, maybe in some countries only, and for some sectors only. So a more vertical approach, for a more in-depth approach, if in Tanzania or from Pakistan or from Vietnam, some of you ask us to a more focused approach to something. Academy, cooperation, investments, whatsoever. So this can be replicated in a more targeted way, this webinar, but also a follow-up can be also made of contacts, practical contacts with us or with our speakers, who are all subjects, all stakeholders, to use a common word nowadays of cooperation. All of you actually are all subjects and stakeholders of this world where water, as I just mentioned, is made of public, private, profit and non-profit and whatsoever contribution. So we need to put all together the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle in a rational, in a coherent and rational way. This is our job, but we also understand that not all of you can be professionals of the sector, but we would like also to put you in touch with professionals. That's why we also get our agency for cooperation involved. There was Mr. Sertoli, who gave us 2 excellent presentations. So in order to build up a new project, we can also help. But please give us priorities and coherent criteria, and we would appreciate such a push towards a better management of water, a better management of environment, generally speaking. Not to speak about climate change, and so this is to stop here myself, and I really would appreciate your contribution as questions, as ideas, as comments from your side. Please, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Livio. Thank you very much. Well, this is quite exciting. So I'm sure you are already planning in your mind possible initiatives, activities to be carried out after this webinar and after hearing Livio saying these very promising words. So please, the floor is yours. If you have any question, any comment, any proposal, this is the moment. Or if you don't want to talk now, feel free, as Livio was saying, to contact us in the coming days. But it would be good to have a discussion to understand if this webinar has created some ideas that could flower in the coming days or months. As I don't see if you're raising your hand, if you want to take the floor, please just talk. Oh, I see Vittorio. Please, Vittorio.
Just to break the ice, to continue the concept of continuous collaboration, I'm ready as a university to support any kind of practical summer school to use this approach of citizen science, point of care, of analysis of water for microbial and genotoxic agents. It's not difficult. In 1 week, 10 days will be enough to take all this information in bioassay, which is not costing, is easy to do it, which can be used also in the citizen approach. So this is take, especially for Livio and Rosa Laura, take this disponibility, because we are ready to do it in Rome, but also in other countries. At the moment, I am in Cameroon, for example, just setting up a lab to do this kind of activities. So it's not difficult, it's not costing, it's point of care, and could be done also by not professional. So this is why we call citizen science, so that people which are live in the water, which are close to the water, if they want to control themselves, if the water they drink, the water they use for washing, the water they use for any kind of economical activities, if this water really clean, is microbial contaminated. There is a chemical genotoxicity there, especially I think now for Ukraine, in which the war, the bombing is surely contaminating the water sources. And maybe that the Italian cooperation in this kind of relationship with Ukraine have to be ready to support, to look at the contamination of the war effect in genotoxic agents. Just to remember that after the war that we have in Balkan, in Serbia, and in Montenegro, we have a lot of people which die for genotoxicity, so develop cancer. So it's important that in this phase, we have to give to people the possibility to control themselves what happens in this particular case, but also in all other situations in which heavy chemical fertilization has been used, for example. This is there is some kind of silent epidemics of genotoxicity that take years to be identified. So it's important to have this kind of approach, and we are ready to support everywhere in each country.
Well, Vittorio, thank you so much for this very generous offer. And, you know, I am working for the Mountain Partnership Secretariat, and many of the participants here have also somehow linked to the Mountain Partnership. And in mountain areas, there is this idea that water, air, everything is pure. But unfortunately, as you're saying, because of this very spread pollution, because of plastic waste, because of other waste, because of the human pressure, the situation in many mountain areas is no longer so pristine and pure as it used to be. So I think some of our members could be very interested in applying these techniques and testing themselves. Is the condition of the water, of the soil, is as pure as it used to be, or if instead is unfortunately contaminated. And I don't know if there are any comments today. I think we are a bit tired. There is a bit of fatigue after these 2 weeks, of course, but I'm sure we will have a very intense follow-up after this. I don't want to start calling the people I know and putting them on the spot, but as you know, you can always count on the Mountain Partnership Secretariat, on me, on my colleagues here, for getting in contact with the speakers, with Livio Spadavecchia, that has been really supporting this webinar from the very beginning. In fact, the idea of this webinar belongs to him, so he's really the mind behind, and Vittorio, that has joined immediately and provided all this support. So if there are no, I don't see any other hands. So if we don't have other comments from Livio, I would suggest that we close this webinar. And I have just a couple of points that I would like to share in terms of housekeeping. Well, thank you very much, first of all, to Livio, that had this idea of having this excellent webinar. To all the speakers that have joined us on a voluntary basis and provided very interesting lectures during these 2 weeks. The friends of the Torino University that provided this excellent tool and also interesting lessons as well. And to all the participants, we had more than 250 registered participants, and we had an average of 40-50 participants every day, which is quite exceptional for such a long webinar. If you have any comments about the webinar in itself, about the length, you know, the 2 weeks, 2 hours, whatever, the space for question and answer, this is one of our first attempts, so we would be very happy to receive feedback from you also on this modality for discussing, for learning. As you know, because we have been writing this in the chat several times, all the lessons and all the PPTs are available online. If you go to the Mountain Partnership website, if you Google Mountain Partnership, you reach it. Under Capacity Development, you will find the Aqua Team webinar and all the lessons and all the PowerPoint and the flyer with the name of all the speakers. And the last point I would like to share with you is that at the request of some participants, a diploma has been developed and will be granted to all the participants that have been attending at least 70% of the lessons. So if you wish to receive a diploma that would provide the memory of this course, please feel free to write to me or to Fabio or to Alison and request this diploma. And so from my side, thank you very much to all of you, and over to Livio for the very last words. Thank you.
Well, just to add to your last comments, that the fact that all these lessons have been recorded, this is an important opportunity to let you talk of that to other people. Other people from institutions, from a Ministry of Water, from some university, investors, that you get in touch with and talk about this webinar and show them the lessons which have been recorded. And in this way to open, to enlarge the people who get to know, who have a potential interest to launch new initiatives all together with us. We are looking for partnership. That's it. We are not looking for absolutely for simply for private investors. We are looking for every kind of interested party, interested subject. If there is an interest, we are ready to launch new partnerships. The more you get people involved, the more we can find an interest to develop something altogether and to give this webinar a follow-up. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Livio. And of course, you can count on the Mountain Partnership Secretariat for any follow-up, any idea, any development that you would like to share. So if there are no other comments, I just would like to close this meeting, but thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to Livio in particular and all the speakers. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, Manji, please.
Excuse me, sorry. Excuse me, thank you for the organization of this nice 2 weeks of webinar, and I would like to thank also Livio and all the speakers during this 2 week. In fact, just I would like to mention that my institute in the Arid Region Institute of Tunisia, we have already a good partenariat with many universities and research centers and organizations in Italy. This cooperation is improved from 1 year to another, and actually we have at least five projects, and we are working with many with the University of Sassari, mainly in desertification and land degradation. And in frame of Horizon program, actually we are working in the implementation of new projects, and I hope it go on in this case. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to you. And I see that there are a lot of comments and greetings in the chat. So if there are no other questions, I would like to close now. And thank you very much to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.